We continue our journey into the pressure points of the global financial system. In today's podcast episode, we go deeper into a new kind of weapon, more sophisticated, quieter, yet far more destructive than any U.S. aircraft carrier ever built. If the petrodollar is the rope and sanctions are the noose, then what we're about to discuss is the razor-sharp blade silently slicing the Achilles tendon of the giant. It is a project rarely covered by mainstream media with the seriousness it deserves. Yet it is a nightmare keeping strategists in the White House and the U.S. Treasury awake at night. Welcome to the Hidden Self, where we expose truths society was never meant to see, outside the glass cage and beyond the gaze of Big Brother. To understand why mBridge is so dangerous, we first need to understand the weaponization of SWIFT, the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. For decades, the world was lulled into believing SWIFT was a neutral messaging system between banks. In reality, it is a glass enclosure Washington uses to monitor the financial bloodstream of the entire planet. Any transaction involving US dollars, whether a Vietnamese company buying goods from Brazil, must pass through a US intermediary bank, which means the United States has three powers. First, the power to see everything. Second, the power to freeze it instantly. And third, the most terrifying of all, the power to seize it outright. This is supreme financial power. When the US expelled Russia from SWIFT in 2022, it wasn't just a sanction, it was a public financial amputation, turning a global power into a payment island cut off from the world. But this excessive weaponization of SWIFT triggered massive backlash. Nations began to realize if today it's Russia, tomorrow it could be us. An urgent demand for an escape route emerged, and that's when mBridge was born. Not as a weak alternative, but as a revolution designed to completely eliminate the role of US intermediary banks. mBridge is a CBDC-based digital payment platform built on distributed ledger technology, DLT, developed through collaboration between the Bank for International Settlements and the central banks of China, Thailand, the UAE, and Hong Kong. Most recently, another heavyweight joined the project, Saudi Arabia. Think of mBridge as a secret underground pipeline running across borders without passing through a single US checkpoint. Under the old SWIFT system, a transaction could take 2 to 5 days and incurred multiple layers of fees. With central bank digital currencies, funds move directly in seconds. This is the blade cutting SWIFT's Achilles tendon. Why? Because mBridge completely eliminates the need for the US dollar as an intermediary currency. If the UAE sells oil to China, it can now exchange a digital dirham directly for a digital yuan on mBridge. The transaction doesn't touch New York, it isn't monitored by the Fed, and it cannot be blocked by any Washington sanction. Put bluntly, a new global financial nervous system is being built, one where America's Big Brother is blind. This is no longer a forecast, it is already operational reality. And Saudi Arabia's entry into mBridge is a lethal variable for the petrodollar system Trump is desperately trying to save. Recall the logic from the previous episode. The US protects Saudi Arabia in exchange for oil being sold in US dollars. But now, Saudi Arabia itself is helping build a system that allows oil sales without the dollar. This is a masterstroke of quiet retaliation. Riyadh doesn't openly declare abandonment of the USD because that would trigger brutal sanctions or even military action. Instead, it joins silently. It is preparing for a post-dollar future. Once mBridge infrastructure matures and liquidity deepens, multi-currency settlement will be possible at the push of a button. For Donald Trump, this is a lethal variable. But what can he do? Invade Saudi Arabia? Sanction his most important Middle Eastern ally? That would only push Riyadh faster into the arms of BRICS. mBridge is creating a digital shield for resource-rich nations, allowing them to escape Washington's grip without firing a single shot. Now, let's decode the weapon itself. Why is DLT poison to the dollar? In traditional finance, power lies in centralization. Whoever controls the central server controls the game. For decades, the US controlled that server. DLT changes everything. It is decentralized. Transaction data is stored simultaneously across all participants. No single entity can freeze accounts or cancel transactions unilaterally. mBridge uses a variant of DLT to create an instant foreign exchange market. Algorithms automatically calculate exchange rates and swap currencies without an anchor currency like the US dollar. This destroys America's greatest advantage, forcing the world to hold dollars. If countries can safely and instantly settle in their own currencies through mBridge, they no longer need to hold trillions in US Treasury bonds. And when that demand disappears, America's $38 trillion debt bomb demolishes. Trump understands this better than anyone. That's why he's desperately applying pressure, threatening 100% tariffs on countries abandoning the dollar and 25% tariffs on countries doing business with China. But threats can't stop a technological inevitability. The currency war has shifted from gun barrels to lines of code. China is leading the charge with its digital yuan, deeply integrated into mBridge. No armies, no invasions, just a better, cheaper, safer payment infrastructure immune to US interference. Russia isn't sitting idle either. Putin has announced plans for a BRICS payment system fully compatible with mBridge. To Washington, this is a nightmare alliance. Russian resources, Chinese technology, Middle Eastern capital. Together, they form a death sentence for the dollar. The US is trapped. If it bans banks from participating, it isolates itself from Asia and the Middle East. If it allows mBridge to grow, the dollar loses dominance. Trump's counterplay? Push for a digital dollar. Support crypto to keep capital within US control. But here's the difference. mBridge is designed so no one can control it. America demands ultimate control, and the world is choosing freedom from a debt-ridden empire. Sanctions are entering their final chapter. When Washington can no longer see or stop money flows, sanctions become worthless paper. We are moving toward a multipolar financial order where power is distributed across nodes from Shanghai to Dubai to Riyadh. Trump can arrest Maduro, threaten Iran, seize oil tankers, but he cannot arrest data flowing through mBridge. This war is colder than you think. It happens in fortified data centers inside encrypted algorithms, but its outcome will reshape the wallets of billions. When the dollar ceases to be the blood of the global economy, America will face its brutal reality. A debt-addicted nation, stagnant production, no longer able to force the world to pay for its lifestyle. The board is set, the final moves are underway, and in this war, whoever controls the new payment infrastructure controls the world. Remember this, empires don't collapse from invasion, they collapse when their currency is no longer welcome at the gates of global trade. And mBridge is the door slamming shut on America. Welcome to the post-dollar world, a raw, unforgiving world with no place for those living off the past.